Good morning. This is Mama Zizi. I am glad to be able to talk to you, and I hope this reaches you in time because it does take about 7-8 hours to upload a little video like that. Today, I would like to speak about the main things we're born with and how our bringing affects us. When we're born, we have two main fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud voices, or any loud noise disturbs the baby. But essentially, the baby responds and goes positively to pleasurable activities and avoids negative ones. But as we grow older, we are really controlled by what the adults in our lives do. If they are, thinking about us, or are they thinking only about themselves and what makes them happy and what serves their purpose? The child is like born with very little information except the information they gather while we are pregnant with those children. They are affected by our moods, our happiness, our talk, our music. Everything is affecting not the child when they're born, but as soon as they are conceived. They take our heredity from both partners, and then the mother and her pregnancy time affects their development. So you find babies that are born that look unhappy. Some children are born and they're happy, and if you look at what the mother has gone through during the 9 months or 7 months or whatever, it is very reflective of what this mother has gone through. So what I'm trying to say is, let's not judge. Let's not blame. Let's not think that we are any better than anybody else. Some babies are born in luxury, in love, in attention, in everything that is conducive to a wonderful life. Other children are born in poverty, either financial poverty or emotional poverty, or broken homes, or whatever is not conducive to a proper upbringing, a happy upbringing, because we know we are all seeking happiness. We're all seeking the pleasure, whether it's the pleasure of the parent or the pleasure of whoever is taking care of us, or the pleasure from a supreme being or a source or whatever. Depending on our age, we progress. For instance, when the baby grows, he's attached to the mother, especially if they're breastfed. And then as they grow older, they start, having the father and the other siblings and so on. And so this development is really very important for the child. So when we think of that development, emotionally they like their peers, they're affected by peers, and then they start liking the opposite sex. And sometimes they get fixated in one of the stages emotionally because of all the circumstances around them. But anyway, normal development requires so-called normal situations. Anything that's out of the ordinary or is not conducive affects children drastically and affects their life and what they do with their lives. So when the child is finding love, they grow happy and adjusted and productive. But when they can't find that, what do? They are subject to being thrown here and there, being out on the streets or in foster homes, or running away from home, or being abused and subjected to unthinkable situations. So the moment they can really get out of that situation, they go out and find something that gives them a little bit of comfort. a little bit of forgetting of the horrors that they live through. So sometimes this attempt to forget or to escape falls into the hands of, either the wrong people or the wrong situations and circumstances. So then people turn into sex, turn to drugs, turn to thievery, whatever is going to give them pleasure at the moment and to survive. Again, how can we judge? How can we blame? We can't. We are not God, we're not a supreme being, because we don't know the circumstances of people, whether they're doing it out of malice or out of, being in a situation where they really don't have too much choice. So let's keep in mind that although we all seek happiness, although we all seek pleasure, happiness and pleasure are person dependent, circumstantial, and for the moment they depend on the age, the circumstances, and so on. So it doesn't mean that I need happiness, that I will do the right thing to get that happiness. Most of the time, happiness is connected to something, a thing, like either, pleasure through money, power, control, sex, enslaving other people, doing whatever gives me, the person, the pleasure. So, depending on that, maybe towards the end of our striving to live and find income and surviving and bringing out our families, towards the end of our lives, not the end, but the end of striving to succeed and so on, then we turn into spirituality in general, seeking God's pleasure and so on. But we usually turn to spirituality due to a very bad situation where we're really unhappy and something happens. Like to me, I turned out of complete being lost, having had a bad situation. I couldn't go back to work, and I didn't find any solace in anything else, but I had already gone through my career, my family, got married and have children and so on. And then something miraculous happened to me, turned me into being able to write automatically, and I started writing poetry. So not everybody is that lucky sometimes. Sometimes you have to struggle and fall off the wagon 100 times and then go back. And then you always have that fear, what if something happens and I go back to this, go back to drugs, go back to sex, go back to whatever. It never goes away. It always stays. I've seen so many patients do their best and the recoveries, but there's that inner reminder, watch it, because you could fall anytime. And that is true of everything we have in life. Even if you're spiritual, you fall off the wagon 100 times. If you believe in God, you also have doubts many times. So what I'm saying is, let's be merciful and compassionate. Let's have more compassion to our human beings who are around us, because they are, it's true, the whole concept of law of attraction, you attract what you think, but I don't think children really think that they want to be bad or want to do something awful or whatever. They may think that they're doing, but I think the circumstances dictate. So mindsets and fears, everything is learned, except for those two basic things I said about that. Everything is learned from the environment. So we are a product of the environment, of the parents, of the family. Everything is either inherited or learned. But mostly I would say the environment and the parents and the family, peers, everybody learn. So not only do we need to forgive, because we're not God really, but we need to forgive ourselves for judging, for thinking we are the best, we know the way because we were lucky to have better life circumstances. Let's not judge that. Let's be merciful and compassionate. And remember that every person that we criticize could have been us. We could have been that person if we were put in the same situation. So I would urge every one of us to have that softness in your heart, that when you see someone in trouble, or someone who has done, even someone who stole or killed or whatever, let's see the human being behind that and consider to even talk to that person and know their story. We have so many stories of people who forgave the ones who murdered their children, loved them, and made them amazing individuals. So, loving, forgiving, compassion, and feeling grateful that, when I see somebody like that, I said, thank God I was not in that circumstance. And pass on a loving kindness, an act of kindness, an act of appreciation, an act of understanding. We need that badly. I remember when I asked for the challenge of loving kindness, it really didn't receive that much attention. We are in a culture that's rushing, and we don't have time to offer loving kindness or an act of kindness that often. Not in real life, and certainly not on the Facebook and so on. We just either like, love, or say a word, but a real act of compassion is to understand the suffering. You cannot be compassionate if you don't appreciate the suffering and suffer and experience that suffering yourself. Then you can be compassionate. And that goes for self-love. I would try to call it self-compassion. Because with self-love, you actually feel your pain, understand it, and appreciate it, and love yourself with or without that pain. And that's how you feel, oh, I love you, Zizi. I love you. I know what you've gone through. And you deserve my love. I love you. So I love you all, and hope that one day we will all be more compassionate to each other, and we have a better world full of love, joy, and peace. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you get this in 7 hours. See you later. Bye-bye. Signing off from Cairo, Egypt.